Okay, in this short video tutorial, we're going to talk about odds and how to calculate odds. All right, odds are related to probability, so they're not very complicated to actually do. However, the way we use them is a little bit different. So, for instance, what is an odd? Well, an odd is a way of expressing the level of confidence about an outcome. Okay, so I mean that doesn't say much in itself, but just understand that it's a way to express how confident we are about a specific outcome occurring. So we can call something or relate something called to odds in favor. So what are the odds in favor of rain tomorrow? Or what are the odds in favor of pulling an ace of spades out of a deck? So what that is and how we calculate it is the ratio of probability that an event will occur and the probability that the event will not occur. So how we write it is like this: odds in favor equals the probability that the event happens divided by the probability that the event does not happen, like that. Okay? So that's as simple as it is, and we're going to see another way to write it in just 1 second. And then we'll look at some examples, and that will really give us an idea. Another way of looking at it, so that's basically what the odds in favor are. So if you know what the probability of it happening is, and then you can divide it this way. Another way of looking at that or thinking about it is the probability that event A happens, 1 minus the probability that event A happens. And that comes about because we know that the probability that event A happens plus the probability that event A does not happen is equal to 1. So that means the probability that it not happening is 1 subtract this term here. So that's another way of thinking about it. All right, now here's the thing. Since this is a ratio, you're going to notice something happens here. If we have PA over PA prime like this, well, this just says, in how many ways does A happen over this total set of possibilities? How many ways does A not happen over the total set of options in the element? So basically the total. So it's always some number over the total and the complement of that over the total. Well, if you notice, it's this over this, this over this, and if we invert and multiply, so if you're unsure about the math here, this is a time to review some of your basic math skills. You get that it's simply a ratio of NA, so the number of times that you get success over the number of times that you don't get success. All right, and so it's often written, so that's another way of thinking about the odds in favor. And so if you want to write this out, you could say the odds in favor equals NA over NA complement, or you can sometimes you'll see it written like this. This is a very common way, like 1 to 2 odds, 1 to 3 odds, 3 to 4 odds, 10 to 20 odds, 100 to 1 odds, stuff like that. So that's how we typically write odds like this. And the reason that comes about, that it's just the number of successes to the number of failures. So it's the number of successes to the number of failures or non-successes. The reason why it comes out this way is because, as you can see, we divided by because it's a ratio of a fraction and the denominators in both are the same, it comes out to this, and so we can just write it like this. All right, odds against. The odds against are simple. Odds against something happening is simply the probability that it doesn't happen over the probability that it does happen. It's clearly the inverse of the other one. So it's simply the odds against is simply 1 over the odds in favor. And that's obvious since it's the inverse of it. So it would just be the 1 over it. So that's odds against. Well, in the exact same way that we showed that here, up above, the same thing happens here. So we say odds against is equal to probability it doesn't happen. Or sorry, the number of elements where it does, or the number of outcomes where it does happen, over the number of elements where it does happen. And that is then written as NA complement, NA, or number of failures, to the number of successes. So this is odds against. All right, and something else that we're going to look at is calculating probabilities. So sometimes you're given the odds and then it asks you to find the probabilities. Okay, so how we do that is we say if the odds in favor of an event is some number to some number. So let's say it was, if we look back up here and we said, oh, it's 1 to 2 odds. So that would be a 1 and K would be a 2. If this is what your odds in favor are, then to find the probability that the event will happen, you simply use this formulation. H this is probability from the odds. And we're going to use that. This is going to be something that I want you to put a star by, put it in a different color, because it's very handy, and it's something that we're going to use very shortly. Now on the back of the sheet, and in the next tutorial, it goes through all of these examples for you. Okay? So you're going to be doing those example questions in the next tutorial. However, what I'm going to do right now is show one example that you're going to follow along with, and this will be a preamble for the next activity, or for the next examples. So odds example. Let's say you have a bag that contains 5 red marbles, 2 blue marbles, and 6 yellow marbles. What are the odds of drawing a white red marble? The probability, or the odds would be 0. The probability would be 0 of drawing a red marble from the bag. So first of all, how many successes are there? Well, if it wants us to draw a red marble, there are 5 successes, 5 options where you get the red marble. And how many failures? Well, there's 2 plus 6, which is 8 possibilities for failure. So to find the odds in favor, of a red marble is the number of successes to the number of failures. So the answer is 5 to 8. So the odds are 5 to 8, which means that you're not completely unlikely. These are decent odds, and so now let's see if there's another way we can solve this. Well, the odds in favor could also be done this way. Odds in favor. I usually simplify it to OIF. The odds in favor of red. So the odds in favor of a red marble. So it's the probability of getting a red over the probability of not red. Well, there are 5 marbles out of a total of 5, 11, 12, 13. And there are probability of not getting a red means if you reached in there, there's 8 over 13. Well, the 13s divide out, and you end up with 5 over 8, which is a ratio of 5 to 8. The exact same solution. Whether you look at it as number of successes to number of failures, or if you write it as the formula, probability of red over the probability of not red, I think there was another formula that said, you know, probability of red over 1 minus probability of red. So that's 5 over 13. 13 over 13 is 1 minus 5 over 13. Thirteen minus 5 is 8 over 13. 5 to 8, which implies 5 to 8 odds. Exactly the same. So you can see there's multiple ways of getting to the same solution. And that's imperative. It's really important that you understand that there's multiple ways to get to the answers to these problems. Let's say that someone told you that oh yeah, and if I said what are the odds against? Watch how hard this is. Odds against red, 8 to 5. That's all you have to do. The odds against getting red are 8 to 5. So it means you're more likely to not get a red than you are to get a red. And that's what this also tells you. 5 to 8 means that you're more likely to not get a red than you are to get a red. So let's say that somebody told you, hey, the odds are 5 to 8. What is the probability of getting red? So if this is the odds for red is 5 to 8. So let's say the odds to get red is 5 to 8. What is the probability of getting red? Okay, well, if the odds to red, remember it said if the odds of red is h over k, which is 5 over 8, then the probability of red is h over h plus k, and we've got it. And that's what it started out with, is that we know there were 5 red marbles to 13 total. So this here represented your h, this was your k, this is your h, and then you add the k. And that was the formula that we used, or that we saw on the front side of that page. So odds give us a really quick way of looking at the relationship, or how likely an event is to occur or not occur, and it is related to the probability by the way you see here. Okay, so go to the next tutorial and you can watch and work yourself through the examples that are on there. Thank you.